isn't, it's too little for a CIP.
No, I know.
Everything's good.
But
You good?
I'm not sending my guys to replace that. I mean, to fix that right, I'll give it to fix it right. You gotta.
It's just a nice old.
I know. I know. Morning.
Just let me know.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob. Bob, I got two things.
How are you?
Sleeping now.
You miss your wife, man. Do something different.
I like I'm sorry. That's all we got. But they're asking
Oh, yeah.
They don't.
Good. Hey, Sue, I got your email last night.
Hey, Ricardo.
Hey, Mom. Right here, so he's trying to.
How you doing? Good, man. I was just talking about you the other day. I said, I haven't seen Ricardo in a while. I said, is he okay?
Yes, I have been working on. We got a bunch of new stuff popped up that I'm trying to work through, and then also get all the special things. That's okay. That's what I'm. Thank you for letting me know that.
No, because I told Jason
I'm going to say the same thing no matter what, but thank you for letting me know.
it wasn't printed yet, and I wanted to wait. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
April 12th.
Oh, good. Yeah, because he talked with him about it, and it was hard to get all the data because we had to go back in history and pull it out of an old system. But yeah, that's cool. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning, Steve. Hey, Scott. How are you? How's it going? Great. Good. Morning. Morning, William. Well, thank you. I'll take care of it.
morning, everyone. Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's good to see everyone this morning. I'm going to ask if anyone in the audience are they going to address the council on this pre-council meeting that you come up to the podium and use the microphone for your body to hear, okay? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, now in the hands of our Cape City Clerk, Ms. Lisa.
This is a tribute of Honolulu City Council Tuesday, March 29th. We have approval of minutes from March 22nd.
No problem.
Appeals, we have requests for waive the noise ordinance on April 16th from 2 p.m. until 6 p.m. in Lanyon Park.
On these, I want to. We have some of the same problems that Harold has had some of his parks downtown where the noise goes on park property and goes into neighborhoods, and I get some complaints from my neighborhoods. So if there is a way that we can just include the language that the noise must stay on park property.
So may I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
If you write that you're gonna make noise stay on park property, that doesn't sound like it's feasible because there's not a barrier around it. I mean, so maybe the noise, once you're on the perimeter of the park, it needs to be so many decibels. You know, it's some measure or something. But I think it sounds.
If there's a way to do it, that would be good. I just get complaints from people who live behind Lanyon and across Zigler from Lanyon because they feel like they're in the park in the middle of the event that's going on because it's so loud sometimes. And of course, the weather has something to do with it too. So, I was just looking for a way to try to.
We're finding a way. I just think the terminology used needs to be thought through more.
Mr. President,
Yes, Ron.
there is a solution to this. It's very simple. It's don't waive the noise ordinance.
Yeah, that's true too, because during the daytime, it is more flexible, but they're using amplified sound, so, yeah.
I think what I suggested is that the noise at the property line must be 85 decibels or less during the day, not to pass the property line, and 50 decibels or less at dusk up until the noise ordinance is. That's language I use.
Is that what you were using?
That's right, at the property line, during the day, so once you pass the property line, you can't register more than 85 decibels.
That sounds like
That's exactly what it says.
what he was saying, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, if we can include that in the waiver language, Lisa, then we'll post that on the street.
You know, it's 85 decibels at the door of the neighbor.
It's at the abutting property line, 85 decibels.
I know that when the police come out, they measure it at the door of the person complaining. So if it doesn't with the property line.
Public hearing today is a public hearing to consider a certificate of public convenience and necessity to Edwards Automotive doing business as Premier Transit to operate a sedan service. Public hearing to consider authorizing lease of property to Distributed Ledger, Inc. Public hearing to declare the structure at 162 Henley Avenue, 11 Oak Street, Salmon Circle West, 967 South Beaver Street, and 641 Pinehurst Line of public uses have already been demolished.
Any from council? David? Anything?
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Terry McAlpine Gaines, questions about licenses and permits for her business. Elizabeth Chipperwood, homelessness and mental illness. Wesley Young, pay raises for public services employees and retirees. Gregory Dennis, is regarding Hillsdale Heights subdivision, and I vote on there. He wanted to do a presentation. I told him that that would not be possible. He had some additional information.
He sent, an email with a map on it, USA properties.
He's saying infrastructure issues, falsification of records concerning the neighborhood. All right, Clarissa Perkins, dissatisfaction with work done on her driveway as part of the District 2 program.
Mr. Davis.
This lady is not the same lady. Well, first of all, this lady and the lady who was here a while back having to do with the paint job, are they both participants in the program that Councilman Nancy started?
Yeah, Councilman Days, I had Keisha yesterday to reach out to her, and it's 2 different programs. And I believe that she's supposed to have found out some more information. I think she's on top of it. I'm not too sure if the data's still coming down today or not.
She is still coming down. I spoke with her. She said it was about CIP. Okay.
I think it's some sidewalks.
Sidewalk.
Was it done correctly?
I spoke with her yesterday. She said that it's a CIP project that capital funds that he put into CIP. And an apron was not finished. It was done on all of her other people in her resident area, but not in her area. She's legally blind, and when she goes to the mailbox, she stumbles. So Ken went out with neighborhood development on Jamie's team yesterday, and he evaluated, and we had Nick send someone out this morning in engineering to see what we can do to assist her.
So the answer is it's 2 different programs. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Reverend David Edwards, celebrating the anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Michelle Simons from District 10, Cynthia House from District 10, Reggie Hill, CIP, Civic Center, UDC, Public Safety, ARP, fiscal year 2023 budget.
Mr. President,
Mr. Jones.
I was gonna ask the same question on District 2, but do we know why Terry McAlpine Gaines is coming down on license and permits?
Yeah, Ms. Keisha, I called Keisha again, and just got on top of it, so.
So I spoke with her yesterday, and I spoke with Shonda. She was trying to go around Parks and Recs, so I redirected her back to Parks and Recs to let her know that she has to partner with Parks and Recs. And I also let her know she wanted to introduce her program to the council, so I let her know to only stick to talking about the kayaking company, and anything dealing with permitting and zoning, that is an administrative issue, and we will handle that. She's okay with that.
All right, thank you, Chief, for hiring her.
Ordinance is held over. 34014, ordinance to levy taxes on all real personal property within corporate limits for 2022. 61015, ordinance to add Article 11 for Chapter 61, traffic of the Mobile City Code.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Jones.
one question to the legal on this. Is there a state law that lays out these fees or?
Mr. President,
Mr. Davis.
I'll offer up an amendment today.
Well, Mr. Jones, you show.
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Reynolds.
I'll offer an amendment today to make it legal for 35 miles per, all roads that are 35 miles per hour or less and are single lane, 2-lane roads to be allowed by ordinance. And then once we bring that up, vote on that, if that should pass, then I will then offer a second amendment to exclude certain roads within District 4. Although I've reviewed this list and there's other roads in everyone else's district you may want to exclude, but I'm only going to address the ones in District 4. I don't want to overstep, but I'll offer an amendment to exclude those other roads in District 4. 35 miles per hour or less.
Anything from the council?
That's fast.
Mr. Burger.
Yeah, I had mentioned this to Chief of Staff Barber as well as Public Safety Executive Director Batiste, just to get their take on it. And I also told them the same thing, that they had suggested the possibility of going to a Public Safety Committee and getting some information. You know, we don't have to go to committee, we can still request that same information with your cities to see if they are using the 35 mph on 2-lane roads, what their experience has been, you know, just to give us some information prior to voting. So that was something that was suggested. I know that today we will have at least one speaker to come to the council meeting who is in favor of allowing the low-speed vehicles on 35 mph roads and the low-speed vehicles. We've heard from maybe a handful of folks about this. So just want to throw that up for consideration.
John?
How do we enforce this? I mean, this is, we start laying out roads and parts of roads, 'cause in my mind, I think about Old Shell Road. Old Shell Road takes on a different nature of itself between Spring Hill and South Alabama. You know, speed limits change, speed limits vary. The architecture of residential versus commercial business changes. I just think we're laying out an ordinance that's gonna be very difficult to enforce, and I don't know how we do that. And I'm just throwing that as a question.
Okay.
You know, I think it's important to go back and look at the progress of what's happened here. Because what started out as a request by an individual to operate one of these vehicles within the Henry Aaron Loop, then that morphed into allowing them throughout the city on streets with the speed limits below 25 miles an hour. And now it's potentially morphing into something where you'd be able to operate them on streets of 35 miles an hour and less. I have serious concerns from two perspectives with respect to this extension of authorizing these vehicles legally on those streets. I can kind of survive with the 25 miles an hour below, although my preference would be to limit it within the Henry Aaron Loop. But once you take it from 25 to 35, every safety study that's been done shows that these low-speed vehicles, for the people who are riding in them, are much more susceptible to serious injury and death when struck by another vehicle than if they were in a car or a truck. But, I mean, it's off the charts. So we shouldn't be encouraging that kind of behavior. And certainly taking it from 25 to 35 greatly expands the number of streets that these vehicles would be permitted on. And I think would impair the safety of those individuals. The second thing is, when you have a street that has a speed limit of 35 miles an hour, people who are using the street ought to be able to go 35 miles an hour. And if they're stuck behind a vehicle whose top speed is 22 or 25 miles an hour, they're not going to be able to do that. So, as I say, I have some serious concerns with it. I would support Council Member Gregory's suggestion to slow it down some and take it to the Public Safety Committee, and let's look at it and determine what the true issues are. Thank you.
Yeah, plus we need to also hear from public safety about, how they feel about it also. So I would just say, let's go ahead and send this on to the committee. We can be the chair to look at the case. You signed up for this job. Okay, and let's go ahead and just, keep that discussion on the committee. Mr. President, Mr. Pence.
I agree with my colleagues about the concerns. We know that we have a speeding issue here in the city of Mobile, and that's, I get calls every week about that. And so I believe that I agree that we should take it to a committee because I have some serious concerns about this.
I think I was, me and myself was talking to you yesterday and said that probably the biggest community that have golf course is in Florida. We might need to look at some ordinance that Florida might have some communities, they might have and look to document it, possible, just heard.
Yeah, it's not just around golf courses. courses, it's, a lot of the communities are now using, these low-speed vehicles. But yeah, we wanted to look at peer cities, and just see what their experience is. In Alabama, if there are any, like Fairhope, Daphne, Orange Beach, I guess, Mississippi, Florida, and just to give us an idea before we move forward one way or the other. And, we can look at our calendar. I know April 5th, we've got two. I think, yeah, it's just one because we're moving to CIP, so we only have one meeting on the 5th. We might do it that day or possibly April 12th to go ahead and move it along.
It's fine.
We'll look into it and see.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Is ordinance authorizing lease and property to distribute later. 4017, ordinance to adopt the UDC.
1 second here. Council, we're gonna need to lay this over, any recommendation, Supervisor?
Looking at the calendar with spring break, Easter, some of our colleagues will be out 2 meetings in a row, John will be out 2 meetings in a row. Just trying to figure that out. I kind of came to the conclusion probably May 10th. Joe was out 26th, yeah, 2 weeks before.
Ms. Brown?
That would be, we're suggesting May 10th, would be the committee as a whole, where we would take public comment.
Now, that's if we do committee of the whole to take public comment like we did
The last,
the last time. If, if that's going to be the process, to do a committee of the whole, then figure out when to have it on the agenda, and actually hold the official public hearing and try to.
maybe we should have Mr. Arlish run through the
Yeah.
procedure, because
It's a little.
it's confusing.
It's a lot confusing, especially, Chris, with any changes to what the planning commission sent us, how we deal with any changes that council members would like to make. How do we deal with that going forward?
All right, so before it can be adopted, before this can be adopted, it's gotta be published a certain way. I think it's 3 weeks, it's gotta be posted in the newspapers, have a certain ad, you gotta have a public hearing, on that same day. If you were to, so you could, if there was gonna be no changes, you could go ahead and do that and vote on it. But if you change it after that, after you set the public hearing and do the ad and all that stuff, you change one word, it's not the same order. So then you gotta redo the publication and all that. So my suggestion is take whatever comments you wanna take, talk to people, and get it in whatever final form you want before you do any publication. Then you publish it and wait for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever it is. And vote. Have your public hearing the same day, and you can vote on that if that's what you want to do. But it ought to be in the final form with any publication, otherwise you're just spending money on ads, not helping anything.
Yeah, I think the question that has come up is any changes that council members want to make to what the planning commission sent, how will we then get that into a final form? Because there was some thought that they needed to be voted on. I mean, Ben has some questions.
Yeah, I think what we can do, and I talked to Chris about this briefly, if someone had, say, a written amendment for our rules that they wanted to offer up to this UDC, we could do it today if we wanted to, as long as the UDC is on our agenda. We'd take the item up, the amendment would be offered, we'd vote on the amendment. Once the amendment is settled, then we just hold the ordinance itself over to some other day. So we can amend it at any time. Say the council of the committee of the whole needed or met, and there was, somebody wanted this or that different. Well, based on that, then any of us could go draw up an amendment and then say, hey, let's bring this up so I can offer my amendment, they can offer their amendment, and then we could vote on it, and then table the, or not table, but hold over the actual ordinance itself.
So it's only, yeah, so it's only voting on the amendment,
That's
on
right.
the amendments. We would not go back to the UDC as amended as a whole. Yeah.
Right, so we can, I mean, we can put this thing on the agenda anytime we like, you know, the UDC, if there's some change based on public comment or feedback we get or whatever, we can always put it on the agenda, amend it, and then hold it over again. I think that may be the most appropriate way, so that we don't find ourselves, as we did last time, where we were kind of up against the wall, it's already been published, and now we run the risk of making some change and then have to do it again.
Mr. President, my suggestion would be that we have a meeting of the committee as a whole on May 10th, at which time we would take public comment, that we hold this over until May 17th. So we'd have the committee meeting on the 10th, then we could meet on the 17th to consider any amendments that might be proposed, and then hopefully subsequent to that, it would be in a position to be advertised. How does that sound?
Unless everybody's ready to rock and roll before that.
Sure, and if a week's not enough time for someone to prepare a written amendment, then we can hold it a week to accommodate your mention.
When does the general public see the current form of it as advertised?
I think it's out now, it's on the website.
So it's out now, and it's going through the standard 30-day advertisement.
The only thing that's out now is what came
So-
from
Forgive me if I don't remember the rules, but before we have a committee meeting, don't we have to advertise these things?
We just have to advertise that we're having a committee meeting regarding the UDC.
So if the general public wants to find out anything about the UDC, they're gonna have to come to our website to get it.
They've had years, I mean, to go over it, and we've received comment from them multiple times. So this is not anything new. Really, at this point, the whole purpose was to really offer an opportunity for the new council members, if there was anything that hadn't been put in, to take a look at it and make any of those adjustments. In that process, it kind of slightly opened it up again for this comment period, but we're trying not to go back to square one. We just wanted to get any last minute adjustments and then get this approved.
Years though, I lived here, had no idea about it until 6 months before I got here.
It's
That's all.
yeah.
So it's not mentioned to everybody. Not keep out.
The announcement of the committee meeting, Ms. McAvoy could include a link to the city's website.
Yes.
To that place on the city's website where it's located.
I'm in agreement with you, Mr. Daves. We can hold over to May 17th. Schedule the
committee of the whole intent.
Mr. President, one comment.
No.
Just so we're tracking to, I don't know if y'all have gotten emails I've gotten this week, people know the UDC is out there. I've probably already gotten a half a dozen emails. This was presented to Planning Commission, when Margaret, about 3 or 4 weeks ago. There was a public hearing on the UDC March 10th, I think. So that was advertised. There were quite a few folks that came down and spoke at that point. Africatown, Spring Hill, et cetera. So people know this is out there, and I think sending a link, and if we had this in our newsletter, I don't think that would be an issue.
Any other councilman?
Resolutions held over. 07259, approving the issuance of multifamily housing revenue bonds by the Public Finance Authority not to exceed $350,000. 08260, approved purchase order to logo fixture and equipment company and Hawk Inc. for various kitchen equipment and supplies for the Arthur R. Outlaw Convention Center. 08261, approved purchase order to Plastic Paint Body for repairs to Ford F-450 ambulance. 08262, approved purchase order to Mobile Bay Harley Davidson for 2 police package motorcycles. 08263, approved purchase order to Pioneer Pool Products for pool chemicals. 08264, approved purchase order to Greenway Electric for LED street light fixtures. 09265, transfer funds from general fund to the convention center to pay special assessment for the Mobile Convention and Visitors Corporation. 08266, allocate stormwater fee funds to various capital projects. 21267, authorized contract for chemical construction for ADA improvements to gymnasium restrooms at the Azalea Road complex. 21268, authorized contract with AA construction for re-roofing at various city locations. 21269, authorized contract with Sixto Lawyer for services as a team leader, cyber specialist of the Gulf Coast Technology City project funding through ARP. 21270, authorized contract with Protect Video and professional services in the deployment and management of analytical and consulting services. 21271, authorized contract with J. Payne Organization for overhead door replacement at the Mobile City Theater. 31272, authorized OLISA grant agreement with the State of Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources to provide planning, engineering, design, and construction improvements at the Riverfront Park. 37274, consider approval of the certificate of public convenience and necessity to July Enterprises. 47275, vacate a portion of the public street and right of way situated at the southwest corner of the intersection of Congress Street and North Street. Consent resolutions being introduced. 31276, authorized grant application to the U.S. Department of Transportation, Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration for pipeline safety information grants to communities. $100,000, no local match. 31277, authorizing the grant application to U.S. Department of Transportation, rebuilding American infrastructure with sustainability and equity. Raise discretionary grant, $25 billion, no local match. 37278.
What are we doing? Yeah, go ahead. For what?
That's section 4 of the 3 Mile Creek Greenway Trail, which is roughly that cost.
From where to where?
It connects districts 1 and District 7. It's I-65 at where the 3 Mile Creek crosses I-65. It would be a pedestrian and bicycle bridge that crosses I-65. To include the approaches and trailheads leading to it.
It's gonna cost $25 million.
That's the estimate right now. Just short of that. The bridge itself is probably about 10 plus.
Yeah, it's two different things.
Yeah.
I mean, could we apply for this thing? Well, we have an area on 3 Mile Creek that's in Florida, MLK, that used to be a landfill site with an encapsulation cost of probably $0 to $8 million to encapsulate, but a remediation cost that is projected to be about $30 million. This piece of property is viable to the city, and it's been on our books now for maybe half a century, and yet we really haven't done or taken an aggressive approach to find similar grants to help revitalize that area, which is tantamount to
residential living, but, you know, 3 Mile Creek is near and dear to me also, which, you know, I applaud the effort going after the grant to go over 65. But we've got some real issues that we could take total advantage of the same type of process and application that would help immensely right here in our close to our central business.
So just real quick, this particular one obviously would not apply for that based on, but there are literally hundreds of grant opportunities that are in the Building Back America program that was launched a couple months ago. We filtered it down. There are definitely opportunities in there that we can apply to what you're talking about. So there's probably about 30 to 40 grants, 20 to 30, I'd say, maybe that we've identified that we think would be good for the city to apply for. So you will start to see a series of these over the coming months that are our application towards different initiatives throughout the city.
Mr. President?
Mr. Garrett? Mr. Jones?
Yeah, just a follow-up question to that. I mean, are any of those outside of District 2? I've got drains that have been trying to get repaired for 3 or 4 years that we have not been able to fund in my district, and that's all my folks are asking for is, can we fix the drains? And we can't get it funded, so those grants applicable to that as well?
Yeah, they're applicable citywide, but we just haven't figured out exactly which projects are gonna go to which grant yet, but we
So
know.
see a ton of grants coming down here, we don't see anything out west, and we need to know.
Right.
One more thing. You said that there was a list of opportunities.
There is, it's a book, about 460 pages.
Can I get a copy?
It's
Or send me the link?
sure.
$37,278, recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a retail beer, table wine, off-premise only license for West Mobile Produce and Market on Shillington Road South. $47,279, $280, $281, $282 are declaring the structures of businesses in order to demolish. $58,283 and $284 are assessing costs for removal of weeds, group 1622 and repeat weed link 53. CIP resolutions being introduced, 13,285, authorized change order number 3, John G. Walton Construction for Baltimore Street and drainage rehabilitation increase of $216,700 per year. Resolutions being introduced, 08286, approve purchase order to Ebuildman for annual renewal of project management software, $55,574.36. 08287, authorized purchase order to Samsung Equipment for Peterbilt garbage truck, $339,204.
So, without, can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, there's 2 of them in a row here. Those are just replacement standard, you know, we're ordering probably about 2 a year is our normal replacement cycle for those to replace the fleet as we go through. That's just normal, replacement of the garbage trucks. Just as a side note, we had one catch fire on Friday, so, that doesn't help. It's basically put one out of commission, so we hope to get these, and these are very long lead items generally. I think these 2 happen to be maybe closer to getting them on hand, but generally all trucks are right now a very long lead.
08289, approved purchase order to Kane's Tree and Landscape for tree removal, $32,500. 08290, approved purchase orders for fuel for Wave Transit. 18291, determine necessity for condemnation of certain lands, track 18 for the widening of McGregor Avenue. 21292, authorized contract with Hexagon on-call records for software products and services for MPD records management system, $4,097,449.
Mr. President?
Mr. Jones?
The administration just sort of go over what this software is going to do. I'm guessing it's updating current systems, but sort of what I look at it.
Yeah, currently they're operating off of Tyler. Tyler was really never designed for public safety, the size of the Mobile PD. Scott Kearney's coming up, but this is the implementation as well as the recurring costs of the software, and I'll let Scott explain.
recording system. And, this is Catherine T. She's over the record for police department. This is pretty much everything that the police officers interact with and store for, all criminal records. So this is actually the police officers in the field using the software, and obviously, record people using it. So, you want to speak, Kat?
Yes, sir. The Hexagon product that we're actually trying to obtain at this point will be very beneficial to us in reference to the Tyler program that we're utilizing. Our on-call system that we're utilizing through Tyler at this point is not beneficial for the Mobile Police Department. The on-call system is not able for us to using Excel to, excuse me for being nervous, this is my first time speaking.
You're doing a good job.
I'm used to him. But everybody else is new to me. So if I forget something, another thing is the accessibility to the program. It's user-friendly. The child program that we're using right now is not user-friendly. It doesn't accommodate the Mobile Police Department for the things that we needed to do. I think they already stipulated that when we first got into Tyler. So Hexagon, excuse me again, breathe. So Hexagon at this point will give us access to be able to have our on-call measurements that we need in reference to reports that are coming in. It will also help us to be able to combat crime a little bit better. We already are using Hexagon with our CAD system at this point. So to utilize that program for our RMS system will be very beneficial to us. And there's other things that we're looking for future-wise that it can also give us accessibility to.
If you were not saying anything, we would not know that you was nervous.
Thank you.
So, Councilman, some of the cost of this will be offset once we are implemented, right? And because we will drop the Tyler component as we transition to Hexagon.
So are you able to take in historical data that exists on Tyler and download that into this system so that it's already available and you can then look at that data?
Absolutely. There'll be no loss of data. All that historical data will be migrated over, just like the previous system we had was migrated over to the Tyler system.
Was this budget or is this a new one?
It is. It's a budget.
Thanks.
They've been working on it for about a year and a half.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President.
Mr. Rondo.
On this software, I'm sure it gives us new capabilities, but does it tie into all the data that we collect through our cameras and all that sort of stuff too?
Yeah, well, the police department does have a separate system, their DIM system, where they keep a lot of the, like crime scene photography, video and stuff, and it manages that system. It's, I don't know if this system's necessarily gonna be integrated with that.
They can still wear surveillance cameras.
Oh, you're talking about the SHIELD program? Okay. No, that's a different system that manages that, absolutely.
And it's not tied into our Tyler.
Right.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It's not tied into Tyler either.
No, it's not, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
37293 is the certificate of public convenience and necessity for Edwards Automotive. 37294 reviews renewal of business license for TRLC with business discount, so on and so forth.
Mr. President,
Mr. Sage.
I'd like to ask, we've had a number of presentations with respect to the property. I would like to ask if this item be moved to consent.
Yeah, I agree with you. Everyone is fine with that?
So we'll just take it up.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
one question, Mr. President.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I think Mr. Arlen was gonna introduce something for us on this, and to sort of lay this out for us in a document. That is the one that you were talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I thought so, I just wanted to confirm before we voted on it.
Call for public hearings, 41295, call for public hearing to consider a certificate of public convenience necessity to MK9 emergency medical transport to operate a shuttle service scheduled April the 12th. 41296, call for public hearing to consider approval of a certificate of public convenience and necessity to Ophir Global, doing business as John Henry Transportation to operate a sedan service scheduled April 12th. Announcements.
One other question, currently that
they're still trying to figure it out right now. We think it was in the, front end, not the back end of the truck, so something mechanical in the front end, so, yeah, they're still, as a matter of fact, they were looking at it yesterday. I don't have the full readout on how much of the damage, and, we had one about a year and a half ago have a similar thing, and it completely burnt up, so it was a total loss for that one. We had another in the back end catch fire, but our operator was fast acting. I think you recall, we talked about it at the city council, emptied the load and saved it from burning up, so that was good. So, yeah, so, we're looking into it to figure it out.
Unrelated. We'll have a rules committee meeting this afternoon immediately. I guess 1 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
1 o'clock. It'll be up here.
I thought that was gonna be right after.
What would y'all prefer? 12 o'clock?
But you know, it depends on what time we get out of council. That's all it's been.
Okay, 12 o'clock, we'll have the rules committee meeting here at the conference room.
I have a question, and I haven't had a chance to go back and look it up. Does the Wayne Transit System have the authority to change or close a route without council approval or administrative approval? I know that in the past, this council has changed or ended routes, but I don't remember the wave ever changing or discontinuing a route without approval from the council or administration. I need to know the answer to that question, if somebody can get it. It's really important.
Yeah.
There's a special needs issue that I need an answer for.
Okay.
Anything else from the council? Mr. Mayor?
I just want to make sure that that I heard clearly on what the process is going to be for the UDC, especially for the sake of the staff and all. But as I understood that Mr. Reynolds was proposing that we look at, if there's an amendment that maybe Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Days, or whichever city councilor would like to propose to be starting to work on that, and you set a date for the 10th of May to hear that. And so those amendments could be voted upon by the council, and if, let's say, approved, then we would roll it into what I would call the master UDC. We would merge it into the document that exists today. And if it didn't pass, then it would go into the master document. And at some point after you have gone through that process of voting up or down these amendments, then we'll eventually vote on the master document. Is that correct?
That's my.
After it's advertised.
Yeah, after.
So
I think that's a brilliant idea. Okay.
So on May 10th, we would have a meeting of the committee of the whole. And the purpose of that meeting would be to take public comment.
Correct.
We're going to hold it over until May 17th, at which time hopefully we would be in a position to consider whatever amendments council persons might have and either vote them up or down. And then you would be in a position to have a finalized document that's ready to be advertised, okay?
Yes, that's great. And I do think that's a new idea of how to move it forward. I think it'll expedite the process. I would say this, though, that between now and May 17th would be very beneficial for the city councils that have an idea about an amendment to, try to get that reduced to writing, and let's start working with the staff just so that we can try to work out any discrepancies that we see, or maybe some legality that we see, so that when it does come and when the amendment is proposed, that at least we have an understanding, you have an understanding that we don't have to go back and reword the amendment. But I think we got a lot of time to be able to do that between now and May 10th, which would just help further expedite it. So I would encourage you to try to do that and reduce what your thoughts are to writing so that we can move forward. And that's at the request of staff to do that, okay? Perfect. Thank you all very much.
We'll see each other at 10:30.
Chief.
I can't accept it, but I'm the very, I think it has better. I know.